Tolkien, and I would like to welcome you all to the Sustainability Laboratories Conversation Series. Now, tonight it is my privilege to introduce you to Dr. Antonia Varela. Dr. Varela is an astrophysicist at the Institute of Astrophysics of the Canary Islands and director of the Starlight Foundation. She did her doctorate thesis in extragalactic astrophysics at the IAC and at the Institute of Astrophysics in Paris. She's a member of the Sky Quality Group of the IAC for the characterization of the Canary observatories. She has 100 publications in scientific journals and contributions to national and international congresses and more than 500 outreach contributions. She's participated in 22 national and international R&D projects. Now I'm going to turn things over to the founding director of the Sustainability Laboratory, Dr. Michael Ben-Eli. Hi, Michael.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And of course, thank you, Antonia. It's really so excited to see you again. Only a few weeks ago, you gave a wonderful presentation to the fellows of the lab in La Palma, and people still remember that great occasion. Thank you also for, I know that this is not a convenient time. You must be nearing midnight now. So thank you for making that effort and joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in the seminar, Michael.
And we heard about your wonderful career from Liz. Maybe we can take a more personal note and ask you to introduce yourself to the audience, but in a more personal way, what the making of Antonia.
I try. Okay.
Tell us about you growing up. What made you choose your particular field, major milestones in your career, people who influenced you, inspired you, things of that nature. The personal story.
A personal story, very briefly. I would like to say that I was born in Santa Cruz de Tenerife, in Canary Islands, in Spain, a carnival Saturday. I remember when I was a girl, I like to think that maybe in the future I could be able to travel and to see the world. No, I never imagined that I would end up exploring different worlds. At the age of 14, during a long stay with my family in a house on Monte de la Esperanza in Tenerife, with no light pollution, in an environment with a very little light pollution, I came across a book, The Universe by Isaac Asimov, and it was clear to me I wanted to be an astrophysicist. At that time, the University of La Laguna was already offering a specialty in astrophysics, but not the first cycle of the degree in physics. But just a year before I started my university studies, these studies were introduced at the university. And at the end, I was the first doctor in astrophysics to complete my physics studies at this university. Then a few years ago, there were only 20% of women in my class. I had the opportunity to obtain a fellowship at the Royal Greenwich Observatory. That was my first professional encounter with astrophysics. And at the end of my studies, a summer fellowship at the Institute of Astrophysics of Canary Islands allowed me to come into contact with galaxies, the thrill of gas, dust, and stars that seem to harbor thousands of mysteries, yet to be deciphered. And then it was my first direct encounter with the IEC and with some of its researchers. And once I graduated, I obtained a position as resident astronomer at the IEC, the only woman among the 6 selected residents. And I was the first in my class, and that allowed me to some extent to have a chance to choose my destinations. And finally, I had the opportunity to make my thesis in Cambridge, but due to the vicissitudes of my life, I finally decided to stay at Tenerife. But I think in Paris, Then I performed my PhD at the IEC and in Paris also. And finally, a postdoc at the IEC in the sky team until now.
You mentioned Asimov before. I mean, were there any other persons that influenced you in your career and opened things for you and that you would like to mention?
I always say that the main mentors I had were my mother, my grandmother, and all my women of my family. And also, I think several teachers, very important for me. For example, the founder of the IEC, Professor Francisco Sanchez, also the director of my PhD, Casiana Muñoz, and also Eduardo Simonov, 3 people that have marked my career, my studies, and also my formation. No? But I'm inspired, maybe my discipline or my work has been inspired on the women of my family, I think so.
You know, it's amazing how many of the people that we had on the show mentioned their mothers as a great influence. So perhaps you can tell us, how did she influence you? What was her contribution to your growth?
I think the main one is, for example, to be independent, to finish my studies, to pursue my dreams. And then these are some of the things I could learn of my mother. And to believe in myself, even if the situations is not favorable. Then I think these are some of the most important things I have learned. The spirit to fight and to pursue, my expectative and my dreams.
Fantastic. So you combine 2 very different roles. One at the Institute of Astrophysics of the Canaries, and then as director of the Starlight Foundation. One, of course, is focused on better understanding the cosmos itself, the out and thing. And the other, interestingly enough, links that knowledge to issues of socioeconomic development. And we'd like to very much explore those 2 extremes and how you combine them. But let's start with the Institute itself. From what I understood and what I saw when I visited there, it's a really major international observatory and research program. So the first, why the Canaries? Why is it in the Canaries?
Okay, Mike, you are true, no? Both geographical and climatological factors offer the best conditions required for the astronomical observations. And the climate of the Canary Islands is dominated by a persistent area of high pressure in the North Atlantic. We know as the Azores anticyclone, or Bermuda High also, which is normally situated over the northwest of the archipelago. And together with the trade wind scenario and the cold oceanic stream, both play an important role in the formation of a stable inversion layer that, in combination with the local orography, play an important role on the separation of the low mixed maritime layer with the upper troposphere, which is stable, transparent, and quiet, very, very optimal for astronomical observation. The first people to say that was Sir Isaac Newton, because the first telescopes after Galileo and Lippershey were building at the sea level of the sea. For example, in Paris, in Edinburgh, in London, in Madrid, etc. But Newton, in his treatise of optics, said that the telescope must be installed at the summit of the mountain because the atmosphere is better, optimal for astronomical observation. And then there was an astronomer, a royal astronomer of Edinburgh, or P.H. Smith, that 2 centuries ago, he came to the Canaries to verify this hypothesis of Newton. No? And for this reason, the Teide Observatory is the first high mountain observatory of the world. And then for more and more we know that maybe in the some situations in the last century, for example, we can talk about the World War, also the Civil Spanish War, and a few situations stopped the expeditions to the Canaries for many, especially European countries, no? But in 1989, there was a solar eclipse that attracted many scientists and astronomers to the Canary Islands, among them the professor Francisco Sanchez, and they started the first expeditions in the Canaries. No, if I can talk at this moment, there are more than 70 institutions for more than 25 countries in the Canary Islands. Many of them are robotic telescopes. We have the largest one of the GTC, Gran Tecan, with a 10.4 meter telescope. Is the largest optical infrared telescope of the world. And there are incoming projects such as the Cherenkov telescope array, which is the major gamma ray telescope matrix of telescope array of telescopes of the world, and maybe a European solar telescope, a 4 meter telescope. And then the IEC is a very large center that perform top-class science in many fields of astrophysics, promote the installations at first-class research, contribute towards social awareness of research, and so the IEC vision is to consolidate the Canary Islands as astronomical reserve and foster an environment of stable international collaborations, supporting education and training. And these are the main issues, goals of the Canarian observatories. If you want, regarding the different projects at the IEC, we are more than 400 people working on structure of the universe and cosmology, also on the local universe, physics of stars, planetary systems, exoplanets, the sun and the solar system, instrumentation and space science, and other. And then also there is a very important department for technology, with a software department, electronics, optical, mechanics, instrument maintenance, etc.
Tell us a little bit more about the technology and the actual facilities that are there. And also something that I never knew before, but the difference between the, I don't know how to call it, the visual telescopes and the infrared.
Okay, then if you, as you know, the telescope is a tube with a mirror, which is the primary mirror. The size of this mirror determines the name of the telescope. That means that is the first eye of the telescope is this mirror. And then a telescope of 10.4 meters, for example, means that this mirror has a diameter of 10.4 meters. The difference between optical and infrared telescope is depending only of the instrument you put on the focus of the telescope. Then the telescope is as a machine of a time machine. I mean, you can detect very faint and very far away objects, but there are all the telescopes are similar, or the nighttime telescope are quite similar, and the differences are the camera that you, or the spectrograph that you use. Then you can select filters, or you can select camera centered on optical wavelengths or an infrared wavelength. Also, there is other telescopes, such as the radio telescope, which are very, very large antennas to detect the faint radio bars or radio signal of the universe. And the structure of these telescopes to obtain the very similar resolution to the optical infrared is only increasing very, very much the size of a mirror. And there are other different instruments for astronomy. For example, to detect the gamma ray, very high energy, we use photometers, completely different telescope with large antenna with different mirrors. And every mirror has a detector, a photometer, to detect the gamma ray. And then there are differences, summarizing, there are differences between solar and nighttime telescope or stellar telescopes, and the difference between radio, optical, infrared, gamma ray also is on the camera and detector that you use, no? And also on the design of the telescope.
You mentioned the areas of research that are being pursued there. I think for most people, these are very exotic topics. And rather than leave it as a name, maybe you can go a little deeper and characterize the kind of research that is being done with some of them. And any major discoveries or major insights that really came from that facility.
Yeah, sure. For example, in solar physics, I think one of the most important is the deciphering of solar magnetism in the chromosphere, and also the detection of oscillations modes in the sun, that the sun is as a Earth and has a different the seismology of the sun. I think this is one of the most important discoveries in solar physics. Also, for example, in exoplanets, the first detection of thermal emission from an extrasolar planet or exoplanet was detected also on the Canarian observatories. And the discovery of transiting exoplanets, the first brown dwarf, which is a kind of objects which is so very, very, very large and massive to be a planet, but small to be a star, no? And this is an intermediate object between planets and stars, which are the brown dwarf. The first one was detected at the Teide Observatory. Also, for example, there are many important discoveries, such as the black holes and microquasars, or also the determination of the age of very old globular clusters, and even the detections of the progenitor of a few supernovas, such as the 1006, among others. Or, for example, also the IEC collaborator, the researcher has participated in many satellite space telescopes, no? And then, for example, we are able to access to long database or obtained by different telescope in the space, no? And then, for example, using Spitzer wide area data, has some researchers of the IEC have detected active galactic nuclei and quasars, have analyzed the evolution of galaxies over cosmic time, and also to study the stellar populations in resolved galaxy, for example. In cosmology and astroparticles, there are many theoretical studies, acoustic peaks of the cosmic microwave background, which is very, very important, or the discovery of very high energy gamma ray emission processes in quasars, or black holes and pulsars, etc. And finally, maybe in technological achievements, the IEC has contributed in the advances of many instrumentation for current and future telescope, and also in space missions such as Herschel, Planck, Sunrise, Euclid. Herschel and Planck have detected many of the thousands of exoplanets in the last decade. And also in new telescopes such as GTC, Quixote experiments, in many laboratories in operation, no? And even a few years ago, the IEC has created a new technology center called IEC Tech, only for development of instruments for large telescope, new generation of large telescopes, and for space missions.
You know, this is so fascinating and so remote from day-to-day life for most people. Is there any efforts to, I don't know how to kind of popularize the knowledge, to condense it, to make it available to kids, to children, to people all over, to understand and get excited about that huge reality that we are part of and actually are a particle of even.
Sure, that's true. For the IEC, it's so important the research as the outreach and education, and even not only for the students in astronomy. We have two very important schools, international school, the summer and the winter schools, every year, with scholarships of many students, worldwide students. But also the IEC collaborate in many programs for training teachers of the schools, and also to disseminate the astronomy in the schools. And then myself also, I collaborate not only for the dissemination of the astronomy, in particular in many STEM programs to foster the scientific STEM careers for in women, no? And then we participate in many initiatives for the dissemination of the astronomy, to fostering the development of scientific degrees among women, and also at the university. The IEC also collaborate, or we are members, all the doctors of the IEC, all the astrophysicists of the IEC, we collaborate with the Department of Astronomy of the University of La Laguna also. There is a very important department, a master on astrophysics, and we participate as teachers in many of these programs also.
And these are meant also for non-astronomers, non-professionals?
Sure. Mainly the Starlight Foundation. Mainly us, we have a many very nice program for teaching and for training non-professional astronomers, not even different people, no, in different in order to foster the interest on the universe, no.
And how about kids, the young kids, like the way that you were inspired by Asimov? Are you going in that direction as well?
I think it's absolutely necessary to focus our formation on kids, on children, because they are the future, no? I have been the experience this year I have been the opportunity to give, to participate in a governmental program for giving, to talk about astronomy in primary schools. And I see the experience was really wonderful because they also spontaneous. They learn so quickly. They ask for everything about the space, the sun, the moon, the planets, the climate change. And I think it's wonderful to be able to dialogue with the children, no? And I think we have a mission, very important mission with these young people, no? In order to awareness of the importance of preserving also the sky, no? Because I think we are used to hearing about the air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, the noise pollution and landscape pollution, but nobody knows regarding the light pollution. And then when I want, usually I try to awareness of the importance of protecting the planet, and also then we have to protect the sky, no?
So the issue of light pollution, I think it's a topic that is not very familiar for most people.
No.
We talk about pollution in terms of chemicals in the air, in connection to climate change and so forth. So educate us a little bit about the issue of light pollution. What are the main issues there?
Right, Michael. The light pollution is very unknown pollution. It's very recent, maybe. Light pollution is the sum of adverse effects caused by artificial, abusive, intrusive light at night, also called ALA, no? Artificial light at night. And it includes both the light scattering by molecules and aerosols in the atmosphere that disperse the artificial light, the glare, and the light waste, the light excess, no? The overlighting. And then also there is a definition for by the Starlight Initiative. The Starlight definition of light pollution is the artificial light, both in intensity and color, that affects the environment, the biodiversity, the health, and the enjoyment of stargazing at the associated cultural and natural heritage associated to the sky. This is the general definitions of the light pollution, no? And it's due to this use abusive of the artificial light at night, no? And there are, as you know, we could be able not to talk about the light pollution because the 83% of the world's population lives under light polluted skies. And even the 23% of lands of the surface of the Earth between 75 degrees north and 60 south is light polluted. And it's increasing 10% per year. And then it's doubling in about 35 years. And then maybe, for example, in Europe, in Middle and North Europe, a kid can't see any star. Maybe 1, 2 stars, some planet. But we are losing thousands of stars. And then we are very, very worried about that because the level of the increasing levels of light pollution produced by artificial light at night or erasing the stars from our skies. And this deterioration will leave a legacy with a scientific, cultural, environmental, and aesthetic repercussions, no? And then also the astronomical observations, no? We require very dark skies because any sky glow can attenuate the faint signal of astronomical objects, preventing their detection. And then this problem is exacerbated, no, for fainter astronomical objects or when observing with the naked eye, because light pollution generally works in urban areas with the high levels of economic development. That skies are also mainly restricted to rural areas, often more economically impoverished regions, no? But there are, as you know, other threats to the loss of the stars, no, such as satellites, spatial debris, radio astronomy, etc. No, radio frequency, sorry, for example, no.
So I think let's explore a little bit more about the physiological impacts of light pollution, both on humans and, of course, on biodiversity. I think that's a very significant, beyond the interference with observations.
That's true, because we know we have moved the planet, the biodiversity, the 60% of animals, or light depending or nocturnal species. And then any change in the cycles of light and dark can alter the physiology, the mortality, the relationship presa-predator, the physiology of a species. And then for that, we have to take care with that because we are altering habitats, species, ecosystems due to the light pollution. But not only the flora and fauna, the biodiversity, but also the humanity. I mean, the health we are depending of day and night. We need to go to sleep at night. And then any disruption of this cycle, we usually go to the bed with the iPhone, with the iPad, with the light, the TV, and then this light is altering our biological factors. And then it's demonstrated there are scientific evidences of the correlation between the light pollution and some disruptions and problems in health, such as, for example, cardiovascular problems or even cancer problems also. And we can say that we have to take care with the light pollution also for the health and factor of life factor, no, of quality of factor of life. And then, but I think people in general doesn't know this correlation between health and light pollution, no. Then the astronomers were the first to take care or to announce society of the importance of preserving the sky, no? Not only for the science, of course, but also for the environment, because the overlighting is producing emissions of greenhouses to the atmosphere, tons of CO2 of greenhouses, but also because the biodiversity and the human health or strongly depending of the sequences of day and night. If we reduce the life of the human people in one day, we can think only 1 minute with light, artificial light. Then we have no habit to live in different way that day and night, no? For that, I think it's quite important to keep this cycle, these biological cycles.
What's the approach to deal with this issue of massing light and glare? It's to reduce the lighting in cities, for example, or to change the type of lighting, or what's the thoughts in that direction?
I think it's very important. There are many things to do. Technologically, there exist lamps and luminaires in order to be shielded, in order to avoid the we call upper hemisphere flux, no? To disperse light in the upper hemisphere, no? And then we can use LEDs that are very efficient, but with warm PC amber, with warm colors, because the blue is also peaks in our biological factors. Then we have to avoid the blue light during the night, not in the day, but in the night, and to use warm color to shield the luminaires, and also regulate during, for example, at midday when there are no patrons, to reduce the intensity of the light. These are some sample measures to avoid the light pollution. But also it's necessary, not only technological, that there exists this technology, but also it's necessary regulation, both local, regional, national, and international regulation. It's quite important in order to avoid this light pollution, no? We have to take into account that, fortunately, the light pollution can be regulated locally by the municipalities, and then theoretically it's easier to establish ordinances, decrees in order to protect. But the most important is to be awareness of the importance of preserving the sky, because people usually associate the progress with the light, the excess, the blue, no, and then this is the problem we have. People think that and we know that the light pollution decreases the security, the safety also. In contrary, that people think, no, and alter even the species and even ourselves. But we have to change the way to think, no?
I think it'd be wonderful to rediscover the dark. Obviously, it's obvious, but not need to say it, but in places like New York, you don't see many stars at night. And
true.
it's a completely different experience to walk out at night when you see the Milky Way and touch the stars almost. But you're involved with the laws of protecting the sky in general. There are two other a question that you may want to say a few words on. One is the pollution of objects in the sky. Not light itself, but just object, debris, whatever, satellites. What's going on there?
That's true. That's quite important to talk about that. I think so, no, because more and more there is an increase of other threats to the sky. For example, spatial debris and the satellites of constellations are low Earth orbit. That firstly, well, we know that this increase of deployment of satellites, the rapid and increased deployment of a large number of satellites in low Earth has had an unexpected impact on astronomy. While this so-called constellation or mega constellation have legitimate goals of providing access to communication, even in remote areas, they have damaging effects on scientific community, as constellations affect optical and infrared astronomy as a result of their brightness and the number of spacecraft involved. For example, a few years ago, the first constellation was 60 satellites of Starlink in 2019, but with plans for up at this moment about 6,000, but there exist plans for up to 400,000 satellites in such constellation in 2030. Thousands will be visible from anywhere at any time. Up to 30% of wide field exposure on larger telescope would be lost during the early evening and pre-dawn hours. And almost 50% of twilight exposure would be polluted and lost. And then the artificial and even when these satellites doesn't work, they became spatial debris. And there exists more than 600,000 objects between 1 and 10 centimeters polluted in the space. And then these spatial debris, these satellites, constellations, the artificial light at night, and even the radio interference in radio astronomy, because also these satellites use radio frequency, internet. They use internet, the same signal, and that also can contaminate the radio astronomy, the radio detection of objects. And then the spatial debris is rapidly increasing, and this has an adverse impact on astronomical observations on professional and amateur astronomy, is limiting scientific discovery, and also is limiting the cultural connections to the night sky and the opportunities presented, for example, by astrophysics. Then for that, we are very worried about that. Last week, we have celebrated in La Palma a symposium of the International Astronomical Union on satellite constellations and forward pathway. Then, because more than 100 in-person researchers and 200 online were discussing regarding how to mitigate this effect, because they are up over our head. And then at this moment, we have to try to find some consensus with the industry, the public administrations, the governments, and the scientific institutions in order to stop and to regulate the outer space, because for the outer space there is not regulation at all. It's the far west.
And so in that notion of regulating outer space and protecting the sky, where does the militarization of space come in? Is it part of those discussions? Is that a big concern?
Not at all. There is not a very consensus. I know that at this moment, we know that we need, I'm sure now that maybe due to, it's necessary, I know, to protect the sky for peaceful issues. I mean, we know we are in a very, very sad situation at this moment in Israel, and we know in Ukraine. It's necessary to protect the planet also by using maybe military equipment. But we know that there are many military equipment similar to satellite constellation. We are using, we are contaminating the space, no? And even I remember I was looking for, because I noticed this 2 days ago, that there was a program, United Nations, American program to create a new artificial ionosphere.
Yeah,
It was a program, do you know, with needles in order to favor the communication during the war, no, the Cold War, no. And then we know that many years ago, even many decades ago, there exist some projects in order to control maybe the communications of the world, no? And then I think we have seen many abusive situations, and then we have to stop that. And there must exist a consensus among all countries of United Nations delegations in order to establish some regulation of the outer space. And there is a commission, it's the COPWAS. COPWAS is the Commissions of the United Nations for the Peaceful Use of Outer Affairs. And then COPWAS claim to, firstly, to the government of Spain to organize a few workshops in order to establish recommendations for avoid the light pollution and to control the satellite constellations. Both workshops were held at La Palma, not at La Palma, online, because the COVID and the volcano, we have to organize to celebrate online these conferences. And from this workshop, we established the recommendation and how to implement this recommendation. And these recommendations has been presented to the different countries of the United Nations, but not all the countries have signed this agreement. There are many countries that don't want to establish any agreement in order, because they prefer to use the space, the outer space as they want. No, then it's a very difficult situation because you have to establish an equilibrium between the industry, the interests of the countries, and the humankind. No, finally, and then we have to think. I think, in my opinion, my personal opinion, the most important is the humankind and the preservation of the planet. No, and then we don't need 400,000 satellites for control the communication. Maybe a few thousand, maybe, and then the other or annexes for other self interest, I mean, of the industry. And then for that, I think we have to establish regulation.
And so it sounds like the regulation of those issues related to the sky and outer space require much stronger international collaboration, and that the mechanisms that are now in place are really just beginning and certainly not effective enough.
That's true. Even the IU, the International Astronomical Union, which is the entity that represents all astrophysicists, professional astronomers, have created last year, inaugurated a CPS, that's the Center for Protection of the Sky from Mega Constellations. And this center has to work with all this has different hubs in order to analyze the effect of the satellite for modeling, to track the satellites, to mitigate the effects on our astronomical images, and even to stop the abusive use of the outer space. And in this project, there are also projects for the society. I mean, we can collaborate with the CPS. So society, or there are ways for collaborating with the CPS in order to detect the satellites, and also to defend, to participate in some of these scientific projects.
Well, let's move now to the Starlight Foundation that you are the president of. So the mission, what is the mission of the foundation? What are the main goals and programs that you pursue there? Because that's where the connection, right, between the cosmos and economic development comes in. Economic and social development.
That's true, because despite the light pollution, the regulation by law, the sky law, for example, of 1988, there is not awareness of the importance of preserving the sky, as you know, no? And then in order to make a call to the society of the importance of preserving the sky, in the first International Starlight Conference held in April 2007 in La Palma Island, promoted by the Institute of Astrophysics of Canary Islands, emerged the principles and recommendations contained in the Declaration in Defense of the Night Sky and the Right to Starlight. That is the Starlight Declaration, or La Palma Declaration, in which representatives of UNESCO, United Nations World Tourism Organization, the International Astronomical Union, Council of Europe, many commissions of United Nations, international, non-governmental organizations, and many of, they launched this international movement in defense of the sky, promoting the dissemination of astronomy and also sustainable high-quality tourism in those places where the night sky is scary. The most important is the first time that the sky is considered a right of the humankind. UNESCO declares that the present and future generations has the right to see the stars. And the most important things are the values, or reason for protecting the starry sky, or for science, for biodiversity, for human health. We know that the artificial light at night damages the environment and contributes to the climate change. Also, we know that the artificial light at night have an adverse impact of human health. That the good outdoor lighting installation promote greater public safety. The smart lighting helps to preserve the aesthetic, cultural, and historical heritage of humankind, and in general, generate social awareness of who we are, that cuts across the whole of humanity. And also the dark sky or a resource for sustainable economy through astrotourism. Then, the final aim of this initiative is to strengthen the importance of clear sky for humankind, emphasizing and introducing the value of this endangered heritage for science, education, culture, technological development, nature conservation, tourism, and obviously as a quality of life factor. And the Starlight Foundation is the body in charge of the operational management of the Starlight Initiative. And our mission is to provide human resources and means for the development of this La Palma Declaration. Starlight as a whole is considered as an associated action of UNESCO, and it's supported by the International Astronomical Union and the World Tourist Organization. No? That's quite important because we have the support of these so important institutions. And the main goals are protecting the night sky. We have to promote smart lighting and energy saving, the cultural dissemination of the astronomy, and of course, the astro-tourist as a new, innovative, responsible, sustainable model of tourism, a very nice way to disseminate the astronomy. And also our mission is to develop training, advice, and also consultancy on astro-tourism. No? And then for this reason, I don't know if I have some time to talk about the Starlight certification. To pursue these goals, the Starlight Foundation has created an international certification system. The main aim is to put in value these sites, these scenarios that incorporate the preservations and observation of the sky as part of the natural, scenic, cultural, and scientific heritage. And there are two main, the Starlight destinations bring us for first time science and tourism together. There are two main concepts. Starlight Reserves concept was created in UNESCO headquarters in 2007, and present a few years later was created the concept of world Starlight tourist destinations, which are spaces that seeks to guarantee the capacity to enjoy the view of the stars and the discovery of the associated values, or visitable secure site to be visitable, no? That to ensure the possibility to see the stars, no?
So this is a new kind of ecotourism, right? Astrotourism.
Yeah, sure. It's similar to the astrotourism is similar to ecotourism, where the resource is the astronomy, is the science, no? And then in Starlight, we follow all the criteria or standards of the UNESCO, a UNESCO map, and the World Tourist Organization. The tourism must have to be an instrument to mitigate the climate change, for sustainability and for development. And then we have promoted that in rural areas where the sky is usually better, no? Because these are sites with risking of the population, no? And then the sky could become a very nice resource for development in these rural areas, no? And then we propose to use the science as methodology in tourism. And we have started with the sky, with the astrotourism, because the sky is on the planet all days, all year, and day and night time. And then only we need to protect to be used. And then the astrotourism is, for us, is a responsible and innovative and sustainable model of tourism that combine the observation of the sky day and night time, because the sun is a star also, with some leisure activities related with astronomy. And then it's a way to disseminate the science, to promote the scientific careers, to show the mysteries of the universe, and also has many benefits, because with the astrotourism we the overstay, we increase the overnight stay at the sites, also promote the deseasonalization of the offer. Also, we avoid the centralization of the touristic offer, and it's powerful to avoid the populations of many rural areas, and also generate a good quality job, promote the preservations of the natural and cultural resource of the countries, and empower the local community. And our experiences, thanks to astro-tourism, we are able to promote sustainable development in many, many rural areas in risk of the population. No, I think for that this is maybe the most important thing. No.
So you now basically have a network of sites around the world. Do I understand that right?
Sure. At this moment, we have more than 200 certifications in the world, because also we have natural spaces, the Starlight Reserve and Starlight Tourist destinations, but also we certificate wilderness, stellar parks, rural houses and hotels, campings, wineries, enterprise trails. At this moment, there exists a network. Is the first and only, the unique network of the world on astro-tourism. And also for us, it's quite important, the training. Also, we have more than, we have at this moment, more than 1,200 adhesions to La Palma Declaration,
Wow.
more than 122,000 square kilometers certificated, and a network of more than 1,500 people, monitors, Starlight monitors and guides of more than 80 countries, which are the people training for astro-tourism. No? And then for us, it's so important to preserve the sky in this certificated space, in this dark sky oasis, but also it's important to train people to disseminate the astronomy and to develop and to create products and experience based on astro-tourism. No? And then we have also, we training lighting technicians, auditors, etc. No? In order to prepare people, no, and on astro-tourism.
This is a fantastic, really congratulations on this work. I think it's very important and beautiful. So before we are going to turn out to questions from the audience, but before we do that, you are also involved with an international business and professional women organization. Tell us about this one a little bit, because I'm sure it will be as exciting as everything else that you are involved with.
Yes, I think it's a very, very nice project. BPW, we need International Federations of Business and Professional Women, is an influential international network of business and professional women from more than 100 countries in 5 continents. It's a federation with consultative status at the United Nations Economic and Social Council, has been founded in 1930. Then is the oldest in the world, which has been in existence for almost a century. No? BPW International develops professional leadership and business potential of women on all levels through mentoring, networking, skill building, and economic empowerment programs and projects around the world. In Spain, there exists this federation has we are more than 1.5 million of women around the world. In BP in Spain, there exist 15 clubs, and I'm the president of the club in the Canary Islands called BPW Canary Islands. No, our club was born in 2017. At this moment, we are more than 200 women from all sectors of the Canarian economy, policy, and society. And then we work together in order to make visible the work of many, many professional and women and business women, but also to make attention of the and not equality of gender, no, that we usually could detect, and also to foster the presence of women in all these commissions and where the decisions are taken. No, then we have to empower not only visibly to make visible the work of the women, but also to empower the women and to be in this in the councils, in this committee where the decisions are taken. But not only for the typical that the women are associated, but in economy, in science, in policy, etc., etc. No, and then we think we have many things to do still in the world. No? Maybe I would like to mention if you our proposal with the the creations of a new sustainable development goal, no, which is the sky, no. We know that BPW are focused on the fulfillment from a gender perspective, so that the equality and the empowerment of women and girls is a reality, no. And as you know, the Starlight Foundation have signed the covenant with BPW for promoting that the sky to be a sustainable development goal 18.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that this will become a major instrument of getting more, how shall I call it, the female energy into decision-making and world events, and balance a little bit all the aggressive qualities of male dominance in those things. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. And of course, to thank Antonia. It was beautiful to see you and to have this discussion with you. And I hope we'll be able to get together and sometime soon and continue the work that we started in La Palma.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Michael, for this opportunity. It was a pleasure to know you, and congratulations for so excellent work for awareness people, no, of the importance of sustainability. And then, thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in this seminar. And
Thanks a lot,
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
and,
much.
See you all in the next conversation.
Bye-bye.